Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. So I was talking with one of our fellow BlazeTV hosts here at the studio here in Irving, Texas, Jeff Fisher. And he's like, I love the new show. I love the open, but I feel like you just need something. The open is so good and in your face. You need to be doing something while that shot is on you. And I was just wondering, Stephen, could we make it so that I can get flown in and just dropped into my chair every episode?
Can we make it like that?
Yes. Can we do? I just want to be flown in by like something suspended from the ceiling, and then it just stops, and then I just drop into my seat. Can we do that?
We can pitch it upstairs and see if they want to spend $1 million so that you can do this.
Okay.
I think I might know the answer.
You might have a spoiler alert on that. It's just an idea.
Maybe we can ask your fans if someone can edit something like that quickly for us and send it to us.
Just have me just suspended in midair and then dropping. I'm scared of heights, so it probably wouldn't work out anyway. So we've got a lot to get into today, including I want to talk about the voter fraud special that just dropped today. We're going to get into a little bit of that. The stats, just the sheer stats on this is going to shock you. And just the way that the left is, of course, rigging the election moving forward just in 2024. These are things maybe you should be aware of because it's June of 2024. We're voting in November, so we'll get into that. But first, I want to talk about this latest SCOTUS decision that just dropped today. This was the FDA versus Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine. Of course, this is a doctor's organization, Hippocratic, of course, referring to the Hippocratic Oath, in which doctors used to say that they would do no harm. They pledged that they would do no harm. Now, there have been many different versions of this Hippocratic Oath, depending on where you're at. But the essential idea is that they will not do anything to a patient that would cause harm. And boy, we've gone way far off that reservation lately. So this particular case, it was the first major abortion case to be brought to the Supreme Court since Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022. And the case was essentially this organization of physicians, this physicians group, was challenging the FDA's loosened regulations on the abortion pill, which women can now get by mail without an in-person doctor's office visit. So I want to be clear here, okay? This was a unanimous ruling. SCOTUS rejected the lawsuit in a 9-0 opinion. But many in the pro-life movement are calling this a major setback. They're very, very disheartened by this. But I want it to be clarified here. If you are watching, you kind of saw it in the headline right there that we just showed. I'm not a legal expert. Okay, I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a financial expert. In fact, some might say I'm not an expert in much of anything. But I do know enough about law to be dangerous. And according to the opinion, the decision was more about the technicality, was more about whether or not this group even had the standing to sue rather than all of the nuts and bolts of it. So the opinion was written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, okay? And according to his opinion, the court found that the plaintiffs, they just had not met the threshold for a lawsuit in the first place. So here's some of that. Under Article 3 of the Constitution, a plaintiff's desire to make a drug less available for others does not establish standing to sue, nor do the plaintiff's other standing theories suffice. The plaintiffs have sincere legal, moral, ideological, and policy objections to elective abortion and to the FDA's relaxed regulation of mifepristone. I think that's how you say it. But under Article 3 of the Constitution, those kinds of objections alone do not establish a justiciable case or controversy in federal court. Here, the plaintiffs have failed to demonstrate that the FDA's relaxed regulatory requirements likely would cause them to suffer an injury, in fact. For that reason, the federal courts are the wrong forum for addressing the plaintiffs' concerns about the FDA's actions. So, of course, what that means is you have to show that you have been, injured by this. You have to show that you have suffered from this particular, regulation, relaxed regulation, as it were. And the Supreme Court is simply saying, you guys have not proven that you have even met the threshold. Now, I did find it interesting. Kavanaugh did go on and say, the plaintiffs may present their concerns and objections to the president and FDA in the regulatory process or to Congress and the president in the legislative process. And they may also express their views about abortion and mifepristone to fellow citizens, including in the political and electoral processes. So They're not saying, we don't understand the problem that you have with this, and we're not disagreeing that the regulation should be tightened up, which, look, I'm not saying that, Sonia Sotomayor and all of these other crazy leftists that are on the Supreme Court would agree with that. I'm just saying this is why it was unanimous, because the decision wasn't about the morality of it. It was, of course, just about the technicality. So anyone who follows anything the FDA is doing, I mean, we just had Anna Paulina Luna on here. I mean, if you're paying attention at all, you already know this is a legitimate problem with the FDA. They have done nothing but make us sicker. They've done nothing but make us fatter. They've done nothing but make us less healthy. And what they are doing, particularly with this drug, is, in my opinion, criminal. Because even with, if you go by their own label, go by the FDA's own label, okay? Roughly 1 in 25 women who take these chemical abortion drugs have to end up going to the emergency room. And that is, of course, assuming that they don't bleed out on the bathroom floor first. So you've got a drug that you already know 1 in 25 women are going to end up in the emergency room. You already know that they do run the risk. I mean, the entire point is to expel your baby from the uterus. The whole point is to expel it. So what happens? You bleed a lot. Okay, so you already know the entire point is that you're going to bleed a lot. So the risk of bleeding out is much higher than, say, you're taking an over-the-counter freaking Advil, all right? And the FDA, under the direction of the Biden-Harris regime, is allowing these women to take these high-risk drugs without being under care of a doctor, without even physically going in to a doctor. And it's just so fascinating to me that, one would think these are the people who claim to care so much about women, okay? They're just protecting women's health care. That's what we're always told. They're the party who cares about women's health care. They care about reproductive health care and all of these other cute little sayings that they don't actually mean. And I'm just thinking, if you gave a crap about women's health, you wouldn't allow this to be available without a doctor's care. I mean, remember, this is the party, they always bring up the back alley abortions, right? The coat hangers. Oh, if you don't give women access to abortion, they're just going to go use a coat hanger themselves in the back of an alley and they're going to bleed to death back there. Oh, could you be so cruel? Why don't you just allow them to just make the decision with their doctor to kill their baby, and then they won't have to go out to the back alley and use a coat hanger themselves and bleed to death? And I'm just thinking, what is so different about this? Okay, let's take the abortion argument out of it for just a moment entirely. Take abortion out of this entirely. If you cared about the health of women, if your goal is to keep women alive, you don't make it easier for them to access a drug that could kill them and not even require a doctor's office visit. I mean, you want to talk about putting women in danger of death. Think about what this does when a woman has an ectopic pregnancy, okay? An ectopic pregnancy is potentially deadly. You've got this thing on your fallopian tube just waiting to burst. And they don't even have to go in. These women don't even have to go in for an initial visit to rule out an ectopic pregnancy, which means they're actually exposing their risk doubly so, because they're exposing themselves to risk by taking the abortion pill, which they wouldn't even need, but they wouldn't know it because they're not going to the doctor. They don't see it on the ultrasound, okay? So they're exposing themselves to risk for potentially deadly complications like bleeding to death. And then they're also exposing themselves for not treating an ectopic pregnancy, which then could lead to devastating, deadly consequences at any time. And they would have thought, I already took care of the pregnancy because I took the abortion pill. So you are leading women to just inherently put themselves in riskier situations by providing this to them. And I know it shouldn't come as a shock to any of you. I mean, we've known for a very long time the left doesn't care about women. The left doesn't care about minorities. The left doesn't care about any of these special interest groups that they claim to care about. The left doesn't care about trans people. They certainly don't care about trans kids. This is a death cult at this point in every single way, shape, or form. They want to kill as many babies as possible. And the babies that they don't kill in the womb, if you're Governor Ralph Northam, they keep them comfortable while the mother makes the decision on whether or not to kill them once they come out of that magical vaginal canal. Okay. He said it, not me. So if they don't get you while you're in the womb, they either want infanticide or they want death by, injection, or they just want to radicalize you into a cult and then, push you to, more being more prone to depression or suicide. So, and by the way, climate change as well. They want to push you into thinking that you're going to die if they don't save the climate by, no restrictions on China or India, who are, of course, the greatest polluters. There no restrictions on them, but they want to make sure that we listen. I am really concerned, speaking of that it's going to take a while for us to actually have gas-powered cars again that are cool. And I'm just saying, Stephen, I kind of want a new car soon, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that because they're all electric and they suck.
Oh darn.
So I'm not usually like a glass half full type of person. I'm not, would you call me optimistic, Stephen?
Yes.
You're lying. I'm not necessarily always a glass half full person, but I'm just saying, I don't think that we should be just beside ourselves with this particular decision. In fact, I was reading CNN, and CNN's, breakdown of it was, well, it's actually still a little bit dangerous because they did leave the door open for other lawsuits. If the plaintiffs could actually show standing, they did leave the door open for that, the Supreme Court. So I don't think that we should be down and out about this particular decision, I think as much as some conservative commentators. But like I said earlier, I'm not an expert in probably anything. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. All right. So, and by the way, who agrees with me? Congresswoman Lofgren of California, who reacted this morning to the news. This is a Democrat, okay? And she's like, listen, women are still not free in this country. So she's still very concerned that SCOTUS could come back or someone could come back and make a more base ruling that would prevent them from killing more children, I guess. Here's that.
What's your reaction to today's decision?
Well, kind of wondering, why did they take this made-up case to begin with? This was a made-up case for an agenda. And it was bizarre that they took it.
Was it?
And I think obviously it was a hot potato. Now they've gotten rid of it. But it doesn't mean that the women of America are free. As we know, Donald Trump recently celebrated the overturning of Roe v. Wade as a beautiful decision. And so he really is in favor of the federal government
babies being born,
deciding these very personal decisions for women and their families across the United States. We have a lot of risk right now, and that's not over.
I mean, these are NPCs right now. The women in America are not free. I mean, no, you're not free to murder your own babies in some states. In some states, you still are. Could we point that out? Go to California. They'll probably pay for your entire trip so that you can abort your own child. I don't know how much more freedom you want. You want the freedom to murder your children. This is how it is in America. We are so privileged that even the women who are free to go to places like California and New York and murder their own babies are complaining that they don't have enough freedom. And I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe get the baby's opinion on whether or not, oftentimes you want to talk about women, oftentimes they are females. Half the time they're females. Why don't you ask them if they would like the freedom to live? I think they would probably say yes. But again, I'm not an expert in anything, so I don't know. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We will be back with more. I want to talk to you guys about voter fraud moving into the 2024 election. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Jace Medical. So look, I want to tell you why it's so important for you to have a Jace case. Nobody who looks at our economy for more than a minute or two thinks that it's getting better. And you guys would be correct. That would be the smart approach. Inflation is still high. It could easily get higher soon. And this obviously has a spiraling effect. People aren't able to pay their expenses, so they're falling further and further behind. And I'm just saying, all right, we've seen what our overrun healthcare system looks like when the economy is booming. Imagine if something like that happened right now. The Jace case is a personalized emergency kit that contains essential antibiotics and medications that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. They have 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. It's very, very easy to go online. I have friends who watch the show who they were actually Memorial Day weekend. Their kid came down with an ear infection, and they were like, "Thank you so much, Sarah, because you saved us a trip to, urgent care or the ER. We were able to just treat it at home during a holiday weekend where, good luck going to get care during a holiday weekend. So you fill a simple form online. You'll have it in case you need it. They've got add-on options. They've got EpiPens, ivermectin, so you can customize it to your needs, to your liking. And you can go to jasemedical.com, enter code Sarah at checkout for a discount. That is promo code Sarah at jasemedical.com. So my Blaze Originals documentary episode is out. It is called Voter Fraud Exposed and How Elections Can Be Stolen. And I would encourage all of you guys to go watch it. Now, we focused on the state of Michigan. Obviously, it's a very critically important swing state. And we went down to Michigan, I should say up rather, to Michigan to find out what was going on the ground. And I want to play for you a short clip of just how poorly the state's voter rolls are run. And I would say that they're not even doing their due diligence in trying to keep clean voter rolls on the books. Here's just one clip from that one.
This is the Auditor General, friend of mine, Doug Ringler. Here it is, 2022. The Office of the Auditor General looked at the election. It's a pretty decent one. Mm-hmm. You just look at this page here.
Board of Elections.
You're doing it for TV, go ahead.
Not perform a periodic reconciliation between the driver's license file and QVF. We identified discrepancies in addresses and death status that, if identified and corrected, could help decrease the risk of ineligible electors voting in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right, the Board of Elections did not perform a periodic reconciliation between the driver's license file. Secretary of State, here's the driver's license,
right.
Here's your address,
right.
Here's the qualified voter file, here's the voting roll. You're not checking if the address is the same.
Right. Yeah.
I want to welcome to the show, I would say the star of that documentary. You just saw him. He is, of course, Charlie LeDuff. He is the host of No BS News Hour, a Pulitzer Prize award-winning journalist. And Charlie, where's the mustache?
I know, right? You like my hair? I grew it. It should be on money.
You look so clean cut. I don't know what to do with this. Yeah, so it's good to see you, Charlie. And I want you to just tell the audience, we go through this in the documentary, but I want you to explain to the audience how bad it is in Michigan going into the 2024 election. I just saw you tweet out, or I should say posted on X, that we thought that it was, 103% of adults in Michigan are registered to vote, and that's now, did you say 105%?
105. The state Senate just ran those numbers, in touch with those guys. You have 8.3 million registered voters, and you have slightly under 7.9 million adults. That is of all, immigration status. So not all adults in Michigan are citizens. Right. So right there you have a problem. Now, the Secretary of State likes to say she's very busy. Maybe not. I don't live this stuff like you do, but 105% is pretty high. They got a saying in Detroit, which is, if you want to live forever, register to vote, but you're going to die waiting for them to count your vote.
Right. Yeah, probably so, especially over there. Yeah, I know, Charlie, I was going through this and I was like, I'm not a mathematician, but I feel like if you have 8.1 million registered voters and only 7.6 million adults, you got a problem, especially when you consider that is, of course, assuming 100% are registered to vote, which never happens. So a little bit of a problem to clean up. So I want you to tell us, Charlie, about Janet, who used to live in your house.
Janet, a quarter century ago, lived in my house. When 2020 came along and all the absentee ballot applications came, I went down to City Hall, told my clerk, Janet hasn't lived here in 25 years. Janet lives in Texas. Janet remarried and assumed another name. They kept coming, and they came in 21. And they came in 22, and I keep sending them back. And they came in 23, and in 23, Janet's voter registration card came. I called Janet, and I said, hey, Janet, all I have to do is change my gas bill into your name. That's 2 pieces of ID, and I can get your Social Security. She's not happy. She calls herself progressive, which is cool with me. but she's not happy. I'm not happy. It's a mess. And if I could, as a reporter, I got a job in 2020 at TCF. I was the guy, captain of absentee voter precinct 123. I processed more absentee ballots in Michigan than anybody. And my sum total is this. No 150,000 ballots came in. I don't know about Star Wars stuff and hacking into it. I'm just telling you 150,000 ballots didn't come in. But on the right, you have intense feelings that the election is stolen. I don't see any evidence of that. On the left, there's a lot of people who feel they're trying to subjugate their vote, squelch it, right? Take your right away. Me is in the middle. The real place to start is to get these damn voting rolls in order. I think we can all agree on that. Bring the temperature down. And then I'm just going to tell you what I really feel. Why not the last 4 digits of your social security number? It's your PIN. It's your personal PIN for everything. You don't need ID. You just tell it to them. But we're not going to get there with these voter rolls all screwed up. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
I'm working with a guy. It's a Detroit guy. Works under the pseudonym Advocate. He's got the qualified voters list. He's purchasing the list of those who actually voted in the 2022, 2020. I know a woman who owns a house. It was a victim of arson. It hasn't had anybody living in it. It's been boarded up for 10 years. There are 4 active registered people at that address. One guy apparently was born in 1914.
Oh my gosh.
But that's just a holding place. When somebody comes and registers the day of and they'll fix it later. They're going to fix it later. He came in 2002. When are you going to fix it, Jocelyn? When are you going to? There's hundreds of these houses.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I know we had this conversation when I was there in Detroit, but to me, it's like there is no innocent explanation for not doing this. This kind of decision and the fact that, Republicans are passing legislation that would allow people to get free ID and Governor Whitmer vetoes it. Like, why would you do that if your whole concern and your whole argument seemingly is it's racist to expect people to have ID? Okay, we'll solve the problem. No, we don't want that to happen. To me, there's just no excuse other than a sinister motive.
Maybe so. Let's just, go back a little bit. Everybody of any ethnic group, any socioeconomic, you name it, the supermajority supports it. Right. There's just no doubt about it. So I don't know. If it's about disenfranchising the voter, give them the PIN. I don't see the problem. I really don't. Is it nefarious? Could be, but I didn't. Look, besides the Star Wars stuff, okay, like Xi Jinping is able to beam something in here, and there's a fiber optic cable under the counting board. The easiest way to do this with these absentee ballots, and they're here to stay, is not sitting in front of somebody's mailbox. Biden beat Trump by 150,000. You're not going to have people going in and stealing the ballots out of the mailbox 150,000 times. That can't be done. But clerks, are underneath the subset of the Secretary of State. This is a driver's license, Social Security death index issue. It's a paperwork issue. So if anybody was able to get votes, knowing people hadn't voted for 20 years, they don't live there, it is possible that somebody could have a list of this and they could fill it out and they could put it in the envelope and put it in the drop box and just do the round robin. That is possible. I see no evidence that it happened, but I know people are upset. And I don't think the Republic works very well if people don't trust it. So if it is working properly, I called for, by size of county, Wayne County, Michigan's the biggest one, 1.7 million. You have some with 50,000. 1%, take 1% randomly, because that's the difference in the election year, 1.5. So if you can flip it. And just see if they live at that address. See, because there's a change of registry with the post office. There's the Social Security Death Index. There's something called ERIC, the electronic records, blah, 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 that 25 states belong to. You can look. And if we saw 0.5% of the random ballots that they weren't from that address, we have an issue. Nobody wanted to look at that.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking and somebody doesn't live, it just takes a couple of investigators. Hey, man, I see you live in Macomb County, but you voted out of Wayne County. And if the person says, yeah, I forgot to change and I just drove to the old neighborhood, acceptable. But we didn't do that. Mm-hmm. Our audit was silly. They were doing ping pongs like it was a lottery and it went bad and they had to start over. It was really funny. They're taping it, Our audit was, let's randomly pull machines and see if we feed these ballots through, will we get the same number of ballots coming out? That's not an audit. That's a checkup. That's getting an oil change. You're supposed to do that anyway. So I think we have a really bad issue when each cycle, whoever loses calls it illegitimate. Something that needs to be done. And what you're talking about, cleaning up some voter rolls would go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Charlie, I know we don't agree on every single issue, but
God made us different.
Yeah, almost 80% of Americans, left or right, agree that you should have to be able to prove that you are who you say you are in order to vote, because it's really freaking important in this country. So
the French do it.
Yep, right. When what was that? Like 1975, they decided, hey, you know what? Mail-in ballots are a really bad idea because it causes us to have more risk of fraud. We should not do that. Let's go to paper. And here in America, we're supposed to be a first world country. And seems to me like we are just going backwards when it comes to voter integrity. So I appreciate all of your work. I know you are seeking the truth in all things, and you've done great work. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate the time that I spent with you. And listen, keep in contact. Let me know when you grow the mustache back too.
Are you throwing me off though? I got.
We gotta go. We gotta go.
All right. All right. Listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vote and vote often.
And if you're in Michigan, you can do that actually as many times as you want, maybe.
As the guy at the voting at the terminal. I didn't see it. And I was looking hard. I was checking the stamps, but yeah. I'll be there again. I'll watch and I'll be honest. And if I see something, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you come back and you tell me, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. We'll see you soon. Remember, you can find that documentary over at BlazeTV. You can go to blazeoriginals.com/Sarah. Use promo code VOTERFRAUD to get $30 off of your annual subscription. Charlie was just a wealth of information, and he is someone who, the entire documentary is not just about Michigan, because all of this is happening nationwide. But Michigan is a very important state. Okay, Donald Trump, this is a critical state. If he doesn't win Michigan, they have 15 electoral votes. I think he would need to secure Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, all of those. If he didn't win Michigan is really big. So it is very important to take a look at that. And he is just very passionate about the state and about making our elections clean. So I would encourage you guys to go over to blazeoriginals.com/Sarah. You're going to be amazed at what we uncover there. So make sure you check that out. And we're going to come back. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So, look, Relief Factor is there for those of you who live in constant pain. You think, this is just my life now and it sucks. It doesn't have to suck, actually. You should try Relief Factor. It's worked for so many people, including me, including many people who sit at this table with me daily. Jaco Booyens, his mom, Matthew Marsden, Jason Buttrell. It's worked for Glenn Beck. It's worked for so many of us. Pat Gray, it's worked for as well. And so if you are living in pain, what you don't realize is likely the inflammation in your body that is causing the pain. So if we can target the inflammation, this is a very, very potent anti-inflammatory, we can get you out of pain. So try Relief Factor. Get the 3-week quick start. It's $19.95 over at relieffactor.com. They've got a guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose except your pain over at relieffactor.com. All right, welcome to the show, Jaco Booyens, Blaze TV contributor and fan favorite.
Thank you, Sarah. Pretty in pink.
Thank you.
Like it.
Thank you. It is vibing with my pink and purple on set now.
Yeah.
It's a lot for some. It's not for me. It's not enough for me, honestly. We're doing
Boots.
some classic boots. Yes.
Come on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Texas girl.
Through and through. So okay. So I want to get your take on this. Kaitlan Collins did an interview with CNN. Okay, did an interview with Nathan Wade, which you would think that Nathan Wade, who is, of course, he was the special prosecutor that was involved in the Georgia 2020 election case against Donald Trump. And the DA in Fulton County, Fani Willis, was like, you know what? I'm going to bring in the special prosecutor and we're going to pay him something like $650,000 to run this case, even though he has absolutely no experience in RICO cases or this particular type of case. And then, it turns out they were sleeping together. Okay. So I don't know why Nathan Wade would have even decided to go on CNN to be questioned, but somehow, for some reason, he decided to do so. And then his legal team just abruptly ended the conversation after he was asked about the whole fact that he was sleeping with the DA, Fani Willis, who was then funneling money to him. It was just a very interesting moment on a television watch.
Just to clarify, when did the romantic relationship between the two of you start?
Yeah, so, we get into, there's been this effort to say that, okay, these exact dates are at issue, and these exact dates are, I'm getting signaled here.
Yeah. You're on live television, bud.
No.
Yeah, take it. You want to go off mic for a second?
Yes.
Okay. Go off mic for a second.
What do you mean go off mic for a second?
Don't stop down there, because we're sleeping. That's good?
Yeah, good.
By the way, he was gone for over a minute. Cut that out.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just to revisit the question, it was to clarify when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
Sure. So, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. It is not a relevant issue in this case, and I think that we should be focusing on more of the facts and the indictment in the case.
Live television. He's gone for over a minute. And by the way, his original answer to that was so terrible. I'm like, how are you an attorney? You can't even speak.
Well, it's because he's lying and he's trying to make up a story.
Yeah.
And he's grasping at straws going...
So what happened was...
Exactly. They pull him aside. They say, listen, dude, this was in court. Point back to the docket. Point back to the ruling. Don't...
Distraction.
I'm surprised they let him back on, versus, hey, there was an issue. He needs to go. But how did he get there to start with? What makes you think that they're not going to ask that question? Like if Donald Trump takes an interview now, he better believe they're going to ask him about Stormy Daniels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You must anticipate this.
Right.
I mean, it's not some little thing.
Right.
$600,000 sleeping with the woman.
That's what you're known for now, buddy. Okay?
You don't think they ask you this question and the lawyers are just readily at hand?
Right.
Which means he's a walking time bomb.
Yeah, clearly.
Who walks around with their lawyers just casually in every interview? I mean, that doesn't happen. We do thousands of interviews, okay?
Yeah.
There's not a legal team of the guests ready. Well, hold on, Sarah. Can you pause for a minute on live television?
I don't feel bad for Kaitlan Collins because I don't. Find
No, because her encounter with
person.
Trump was just a disaster.
I don't think she's a good person.
But
I almost felt bad for her because you're just like, what do you do if you're in that moment? You're doing live television and they just get up, but they don't leave. So you're just left there waiting. How long am I just sitting here doing nothing?
I'll say this. If something, and it doesn't happen because you are who you are and you're excellent, but if something was to happen, you better believe it. Steven cuts to commercial or something.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there.
Oh, I will say
they're just hanging there like, we cut a piece out.
You didn't. Yeah, we cut a minute out.
She's
it was a minute.
Sitting there on live television going...
So I just very uncomfortable moment.
It's all good. It's
At CNN.
CNN's all good.
Well, I will say there were probably at least 5 people who watched
Producer
that.
was sleeping, didn't know, woke up, what just happened? I don't know. We just had a legal team hijack the set, ran a guy off, brought him back, changed his answer.
Oh my gosh, wild times. But, I guess that's what happens when you are coordinating with entities all across the country to influence the 2024 election, which is, of course, what we know that they are doing with this Georgia case. It's what they're doing with the case you mentioned with Stormy Daniels, the New York City. I will not fall into the habit of calling it a hush money case.
It's not a hush money
I did that for a while because that's what they say. And I'm like,
not.
This isn't a hush money case. This is them trying to call him a felon for miscategorizing a business expense. No. That's what this is. And so to that end, talking about, trying to influence the 2024 election, according to a new FEC, Federal Election Commission complaint, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is being accused of coordinating with President Joe Biden's campaign to influence, of course, the 2024 election. This is led by America First Legal. And, this is former Trump White House advisor Stephen Miller. So they filed an administrative complaint with the FEC this week against Bragg and Biden's campaign committee, Biden for President, alleging violations of the FEC Act. So they're saying that Bragg's prosecution is actually a coordinated expenditure resulting in an in-kind contribution to Biden's campaign exceeding the $3,300 per election limit, and that the Biden campaign failed to disclose this alleged contribution. I love this.
Yeah, me too. And look, you just said it. The reason he couldn't answer, and they're scattering, there's so many scripts out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many narratives that the cabal is controlling, and what you can and cannot say to be in line, and the Alvin Bragg situation of they're all on the teat,
mm-hmm.
right? And they can't keep record, and it's fun to see them flail. It's in a way fun to see that, what's happening? It's all imploding.
Yeah, we're not going down without a fight. That's for damn sure. Yeah. And I like bringing this up every time we talk about this particular case, because this is how egregious it is. And they do detail this in the FEC complaint. December 2022, Alvin Bragg hired prosecutor Matthew Colangelo to basically lead this investigation of Donald Trump. He's one of the lead prosecutors. He left his position as the number 3 official in the DOJ under Biden.
Yeah.
He left his position and just walked right on over to New York City and took a job, which I guess he's getting paid the same amount of money. But on paper, this is a total demotion.
He was assigned.
Right, but the DOJ saying, no, we didn't have anything to do with that.
Of course.
He just voluntarily just up and left.
Yeah,
and then
people do that, right? People
turned up in New York.
People leave a senior ranking cabinet-like-esque position and walks over here to New York.
Oh, by the way,
demotion.
Same guy donated to Alvin Bragg's campaign. Colangelo donated to Alvin Bragg's campaign.
Happenstance, Sarah.
Just coincidence, crazy coincidence.
It just happens.
Don't worry about it.
It's not coordinated.
Right.
We promise.
Right. Because, we're told
double wink.
They care about protecting the integrity of elections. Okay.
Yeah,
they care about security of elections.
100%.
All right. That's the biggest deal to them ever.
They also care that we're, that they make us a democracy, which we're not.
Right.
We're a republic.
Right.
They tell you that.
Right.
We want to be a democracy.
Yes.
With the majority rules.
Right.
In a democracy. And the minority doesn't have a voice.
Yes.
But we're for the minorities. No, you're not.
Clearly.
We're a republic so that the minority has a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's disgusting. What they're doing in broad daylight just never ceases to amaze me. I shouldn't be amazed anymore, but somehow I still am. All right. We've got to take a quick break. And you know what? When we come back, I'm not sure how much of this is going to be on YouTube. I'll just leave that there. We'll be right back. All right, Matt Walsh over at the Daily Wire was able to obtain some copies of the Covenant school shooters' journal entries. The G7 summit was today. Here's Joe Biden just being super confused with all these world leaders, and someone parachutes in and he's not even paying attention. And there he goes. There he goes. There you go. He's gone. He's just bye. Hey, man. Just not
He's Alice. He's looking for the rabbit. Alice in Wonderland. He's following the rabbit.
Someone has to be like, sir, you're supposed to be directing your attention over here.
Man just landed 10 feet from you with a parachute. Maybe you need to notice. Great situational awareness.
Well, he needed a diaper change, so he was just trying to go get his poopy cleaned. Thank you, Jaco.